Hello, welcome to session 10 of PHS 308 titled Public Policy Decision Making. In this session, we are going to consider three main topics. We'll look at the decision-making phase in policy formulation, we'll look at the types of policy decisions, and then we'll look at the models of decision-making. So let's begin with topic 1. The decision-making phase is where one or more or none of the options examined in the policy formulation phase is officially selected as a course of action. As I mentioned to you earlier, what the policy formulation does is to present a number of proposals. And out of these proposals, a decision is made to select one or more of these proposals to deal with the problem. Decision-making is part of the entire policy-making cycle. Different kinds of decisions can result from the process. So we have the positive decisions and then the negative decisions. And we say a decision is positive when it alters the status quo. Mind you, we use the word positive here advisedly. By positive, we do not mean that a problem will necessarily be solved, but we use it to suggest that the status quo will be altered. It doesn't mean that the policy will be a success or failure at this point. A policy or a decision is negative when it maintains the status quo. And so this would refer to what Thomas Dye mentioned, that public policy refers to what government chooses to do or not to do. So if government decides to maintain the status quo, that is, if they decide not to do anything about a problem for whatever kind of reason, then that decision is negative. Now, the decision-making stage within the policy formulation process is not necessarily a technical exercise, but it involves politics, because you have all kinds of actors with vested interest interested in what happens at the kind of in what happens in terms of the kind of decision that will be arrived at the end of the day. While the policy making process usually involves a lot of actors, they are substantially reduced at the decision making stage. The decision making stage is almost entirely limited to the occupying official positions in government. Non-state actors may still be influential, but they may not have the opportunity. They will not have the opportunity to vote. State actors are still required to act within permissible legal limits. So the point we want to make here is that even though public policy making involves a lot of actors, at the decision making stage, it is almost exclusively limited to only state actors, because they are the ones who have been mandated by the Constitution. They have the constitutional legitimacy to make laws or to make decisions on behalf of the people. State actors, as we mentioned earlier, may still be influential, they may still have a say in what happens, but they do not have a vote. Three policy decisions are mentioned. So we have the fact that either a decision is positive or it is negative, or no decision at all. The relevance, topic 3, models of decision making. The relevance of models to understanding the policy making process cannot be underestimated. We say that models help us to be able to make sense of the policy making process. And the policy literature presents a number of models. So we have the rational model, we have the incremental model, we have the mixed canon model, we have the garbage can model, and the decision accretion model. But we are just going to limit ourselves to only 2 of these models. So let's begin with the rational model. The model is rational in the sense that it prescribes a means to making the most efficient decision all the time. It relies heavily on gathering information to make the best decision. But can rationality be achieved always? The question here is that the rational model suggests that individuals and groups or policies are made with the intention of achieving the most efficient decision. But can we always achieve rationality? Because sometimes there are issues with time and information constraints. This criticism is led to what became known as the bounded rationality, because even though actors would always like to maximize the decisions they make, they would like to get the benefit, they would like to maximize the benefit, or they would like to maximize the most out of the decisions they make. Sometimes they are limited by time and the availability of information to be able to arrive at that kind of decision. The incremental model portrays public policy decision-making as a political process characterized by bargaining and compromising among self-interested decision-makers. It emphasizes on political feasibility rather than technical feasibility. It was developed by Charles Lindblom, and the model suggests that decision-makers typically and should work through a process of continually building out of current situations step by step and small degrees. Decisions are arrived at decisions arrived at are usually marginally different from those that exist. The changes from the status quo in the decision making are incremental. So as the name suggests, under the incremental model, we say that decisions that the government, public policy decisions are made incrementally. They seek to build on existing policies and do not seek to attain any radical change from what has existed previously. Now, we say that the incremental model has some advantages because it is easier to always continue an existing pattern of resource distribution among participants, and then also standard operating procedures of bureaucracies tend to promote the continuation of existing policies. But this model has been criticized because it lacks a goal orientation, and it is inherently conservative because it is against trying to achieve a complete breakaway from what exists. We conclude this session with these remarks, that the decision-making phase is only one specific phase within the policy-making process, that there are three decision outcomes with regard to policy decision-making, namely that the outcome can be positive, negative, or a no decision at all. That models are relevant to policy studies as they help us to understand the decision-making process, that there are a number of policy-making models, namely the rational model, we have the incremental model, the mixed canon model, and the garbage can model, as well as the decision accretion model. So with this, we come to the end of session 10. Please get ready as we continue with session 11.